Okay, so here's probably the first time that you guys are going to be modifying geometry using other geometry. So I want to jump back into Rhino real quick and show you a few things. So I'm just going to minimize Grasshopper, and we'll go into perspective view real quick. So I'll just use this as kind of a model. So you guys have a fully developed model. Jeff did not save his fully developed model here for me to use. So I'll have to get that from him. But basically, I'm just going to use one of these as like a sample. So if you guys wanted to, modify the geometry to create like a simple fenestration that you would see like this, really what you have to do is it's a subtractive exercise. So you create a geometry that you put in place, and you use that to trim out or split or do some other kind of function that's actually going to remove the geometry that you want. So the simplest way, I think, is to show you, I guess, is to show you the split version. So basically, you guys are aware of how to actually create a box, or did you guys didn't do referential boxes? No? Okay. Well, okay. Well, that works too. But anyway, I'm just going to draw a box kind of down here and make it very simple, and then I'm just going to move it into place. So the box command is located over here on the left. You just click box, and you drop it into space somewhere. You could drop it onto a corner. I'm just going to create the geometry off to the side because I know that my box is not exactly in plane. So I'm going to have to rotate it in anyway, so I'm just going to draw it off to the side. Anyway, the X direction for me is off to the right. So if I want to create a window that is, say, 6 feet wide and 8 feet tall, I need to do the X direction is going to go 6 feet. The depth doesn't really matter because I'm just going to put it on the space, so the Y direction doesn't matter. And then the Z direction is going to be 8 feet. So basically it goes like this. It tells you to specify the other corner of the base. And so if you use your referential point input, you have to say at, which means that rather than placing it in space wherever I tell it to go, it's going to say, well, from the base point, I want to go this many feet in the X and Y direction. So I'll set it to at 6 feet in the X direction, and I only need 1 foot in the Y direction. So that's what I get. Okay, so then it asked me to establish the Z direction for how tall it's going to go, and I'll say 8 feet. So that's my 8-foot window on a very, very tall building. Yours are probably much smaller. I just kind of extruded this really fast, so don't go out of your mind trying to figure out why it's different. So then I just move it into place. I'll rotate it so that it's aligned with the surface, and I'll push it in a little bit so it actually intersects, and then I'll do the subtract. So I move, and I can just grab from here and place it on the corner. And then here's where I have to actually rotate it to make it match. So the rotate command, I do rotate and I anchor it where I placed it. Then I can select the corner, and then I just need to pick a point on the edge that I'm rotating it to. It's a referential rotate. And then the simple thing to do is just kind of yank it into the space a little bit using the gumball. Did Jeff go through the gumball with you guys? Okay. Okay, so I'm going to yank it into the space and just put it on the surface like that. Okay, so this is a subtractive geometry. It's something that I created only to destroy later. Okay, so without going into like all the many different crazy ways that you can do it and what the benefits are for certain types of geometry, it's for a simple box right now. So I do what's called a split, and I select this object to split, and then hit enter. Then it asks me to select the object that I'm splitting with, or the cutting object, and I hit enter. And you'll notice that now I have this line on the edge. That's because if I select that and delete it, I now have a second surface that I can delete. And it gives me an opening. So you guys hadn't been walked through that yet in this class?
No.
Okay. So, you know, now knowing that, you saw the process to actually create one opening. That's all well and good. If I wanted to create, you know, 100 openings, it would take a while, right? Especially if I, you know, put it in place. Well, you know, I could array, and that'd be fine. But then I'd have to copy an array and put it on this surface, copy it from that surface over here, and then copy all of these from this surface over to the other side, and then select them all, split them, delete the surfaces that they created. So you can see that it becomes kind of a compound exercise to create something on a very simple, and this is just a very simple geometry, that gives you a little bit of you know, clarity to what kind of building it is, right? So the benefit here to Grasshopper. Let me go back to where we were, top view. Right, so now we've only dropped in, you know, well, I guess, what we got? 5 regular nodes, and we dropped in some numbers, right? A couple of referential numbers, and that's super simple. But it's really easy now to do the subtractive process automatically. All we have to do is go into, and I forget where it is now. Surface transform, maybe? I always forget where these are. Surface freeform. Intersect. Yes. There we go. Solid difference. So under the intersect tab, under the shape panel, we do what's called a solid difference. And you know, there are a couple of different things here that are very, very similar, right? We have solids, we have regions, we have meshes, and we have boxes, whatever the slits are. But don't worry about the slit stuff, that's advanced. But so the difference between a solid and a region really is that a region is not solid. Go figure. A region is essentially just curve-based. So when it says region difference or region union, that's taking 2 curves and it's creating a new additive definition to the curve. I could show you real quick. So basically, if I drop in 2 circles like that, and I reference those in by saying curve and curve. Set one curve here, set one curve there. Right, so these actually become 2 separate geometries, right? They're regions. So when I go to intersect and I do region union, it's going to ask me for curves. So I put in this and I put in this one. And what I get now, if I turn those off, is now one joined region. You can barely see it, it's green, but you get the idea, right? So that's what we're looking for, except we want it to be with solids. And we want to subtract rather than add. So under shape, we use solid difference. Difference is kind of the operative term for subtraction. So solid difference, and it's going to ask us for first B-rep set. Remember, B-rep is a boundary representation, which in this case can be a surface that acts as a boundary. And then the second B-rep set. So one is being subtracted from the other. And I always forget which one is actually being subtracted. So I usually just err on the side of at the top goes the primary surface, right? All the way back there. See that? To A. And then the secondary surface here is the subtractions. So we can plug that into B. Okay, and when I hide that, and when I hide this, what you get is the subtracted surface. it would still work, I think. Because when it says when it says what's the phrase? Yeah, solid difference is going to work whether or not it's 2D or 3D.
I'm just saying, if you need to make a subtraction that has this,
Oh, you just
like
we'll get there.
Okay.
Yeah, I could show you that. Okay, so if there's no questions, I'm going to pause for a second and come around and just see everyone's work, and then we'll move on to other stuff.